Hello, good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of the Mackmyra Inn. As always, and just in the nick of time, is my co-landlord, Rich McKeand. Good evening, Rich. How are you?
Good evening, Mick. Very well, thank you. Yeah, just made it through the door just in time for a drink with everyone tonight.
You look remarkably unflustered for a man that's been quite busy today, son. So you're doing well. You're doing well. And our VIP patron for this week is the one, the only, the famous in writing, Millie Milliken. Good evening, Millie. How are you?
Evening, very well. How are you guys?
We're all good. Well, we'll let Rich catch his breath a wee bit, I think.
Yeah, give him a break.
That's pretty remarkably unflustered, bless him.
Oh, so professional.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the inn, welcome. We'll get around to having a drink with you in a minute. If you're not new, again, welcome back. You know the score. Get your favourite tankard ready to get your favourite glass ready to charge them. As you know, me and Rich will get the round in a little bit. One of our regulars there tomorrow. Good evening, tea. So a little bit of housekeeping. Unfortunately, I know some of you might be sad about this. Some of you might be happy about it. Who knows? But this will be the last Mackmyra Inn for at least the next 6 or 7 weeks. We're going to have a wee break to get back out there and get to some actual real inns of other people's for a change, and have chats with our good customers out on the road and all that sort of good stuff. So we'll take a break and we'll reassess and we'll come back with the Mackmyra Inn 2.0 at some point at the end of August, I would imagine. But yeah, so apart from that, no, but we do have a very special show next week, Rich, don't we?
Yes, yeah, we've got something as a yet to be confirmed, or I mean, it has been confirmed, but yet to be shared location. We'll be doing some people who might be part of our mailing list or just on social media at all today would have seen that we announced the Next Moment whiskey. Mick, what have we got? Because we're allowed to talk about it now. Do you want to tell?
We can talk about it now, Rich. We can talk about it now. So if Connor flex the picture up, today we have launched our press releases and let everybody know that our new moment, which will be launching next Wednesday, ready to buy, is the Brooks Whiskey Deluxe. Basically, that's our old favourite Brooks, but made a bit more adult, if for want of a better word. So it's the same cask recipe as Brooks, but it's older liquid, basically. So we're taking it on a more mature journey. What does that mean for Brooks in general? Well, we're going to start phasing out our normal core range Brooks, but don't fear. We've got Brooks Deluxe not to quite replace that, but to ease that transition. And then later on in the year, we're going to be bringing out something else a little bit special as well, which we'll tell you about nearer the time. For the Brooks journey, basically. That's not what it's going to be called, by the way. Before anybody goes, "Oh, it's going to be a Brooks journey." No, that's not what it's called. That's not what it's called at all. So
maybe a future one, Mick. Maybe one in the future. Brooks whiskey. So yeah, or we could call that the flight if we get a few of them in a tasting together. But yeah, so you mentioned the show next week. So on the 9th, which I think is Wednesday, if I looked at my calendar correctly. Join us. Put it in your diaries for now. And that's Connor giving himself a shout out, I think, in the comments there. I'll call him out on that.
He's enjoying himself today, Rich, because it's his last day of university. That's him done with uni now. So he's so well done, Con. Enjoy. When me and Rich get the round in, we'll make sure to extend it to you as well, good sir.
Will do, yeah. And Connor's been working very hard getting this show for next week lined up as well. So yeah, long story short, we'll be doing a tasting, a hybrid sort of launch show tasting with myself hosting in person at an undisclosed location. And there we go. It's been disclosed there. And yeah, leave it up, Con. And Angela Donazio, Master Blender from Mackmyra, will be joining us live via, as we are now, basically, from a webcam near her somewhere. Should we move on, Mick? Do you think we should sort of smooth transition into?
I think we could, but before we smooth transition, Rich, there's another special project that we're a part of.
Yes.
That you've been heavily involved in. Would you like to tell us about it, sir?
Yeah, so we mentioned it briefly last week, and it's something that's only been launched to the trade yet, although you will be able to access it if you go to the Still in Cask website, so stillincask.com, I think it is, or stillincasklimited.com. Micky, perhaps you can do some quick Googling and help save the day. That's it. So we've got a cask share with them there, where we've got something that's 8 years old now, will be bottled sometime next year, and you're able to buy a share in that, so you can get hold of a single cask bottle of Mackmyra that have come with a special label. It's an incredibly tasty whiskey, this one, already just 8 years old, in a virgin oak American cask. But go and check that out, and and join the journey. There's a big part of our business, as Mick, you well know, Millie, you'll probably find out today because we'll go on about it, I'm sure, at some point. But the cask experience, when you own a cask with us, or a share as it will be now, you're very much part of the Mackmyra cask family, and all sorts of perks and things come with it. But check out the sites for more details.
That's loads of talking, Rich. We've definitely earned a drink, and Millie's definitely earned a drink. So at that point, there's our good old bell, because it's definitely 6 somewhere, so 18:05 somewhere, guys. Millie, what are you having?
Well, I have gone very on brand this evening. I'm having your new make in a cocktail that I concocted about 5 minutes ago. So it's your new make spirit, which is absolutely delicious. Your white dog, and there's a mix of about 50 odd ml in there, a dash of vermouth, a bar spoon of some chestnut barrel aged apple eau de vie, just to bring out all the apple notes in there, and then I've just got a little drizzle of olive oil on the top, because I like that little savoury finish. Is absolutely delicious. Brutal but delicious.
Very, very classy, Millie. I like that. I like that a lot, pal. I like that. Rich, what are you having, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going. You and I have managed to get hold of something early, so I'm pouring a glass of that.
Nice.
Noel's told us we can't, so I'm on the Brooks Whiskey Deluxe now. Dent in the top of it, as I've been doing a few side by sides with the original one, and you can definitely tell the age on here that it's a lot more developed. And well, I enjoyed Brooks Whiskey, but this is bloody good. So yeah, any olive oil in what I imagine you will inevitably have another cocktail, Mick, because it just mint in the top, or have you gone? I've never heard of olive oil, Millie, in cocktails, but as soon as you said it, that to me, I can get that. I think I could get behind that idea, and that's the first I've ever heard.
It's a nice texture. It brings everything together really nicely.
Yeah, and it's not something I've played with before, so that's tweaked me a little bit. So today, it's not a million miles away from what you've done, Millie, really, but I've gone for a really big twist on a Floradora, which is gin based normally, and it has creme de framboise, freshly squeezed lime juice, ginger ale. But I've really just taken that as a really rough guide. Instead of the gin, I've replaced that with our Vitmund, with our white dog, so our new make spirit. And with that, I've gone for some Manzana Verde. To really bring out those orchard fruits that we do so well at Mackmyra. A little bit of sugar syrup, and topped up with lemonade. I've also got some frozen limes in there, and my traditional sprig of mint.
Beautiful.
It can't be a Mickey cocktail without a sprig of mint. So yeah. So on that note, so ladies and gentlemen, what you're having, let us know what you've got on the go at home. And before we start off, skål.
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 Oh, beautiful. So, that is lovely. Really good. Yeah, I'm definitely. You have to put that the recipe for your one into the chat there, pal, so we can.
I will.
That'd be really good. So, Bully's on the Glenmorangie cider cask. The jury is out. Okay, so that we'll talk about innovation and stuff like that later on. So we'll come back to that particular one as well. But so before we start off with anything really too in depth, Millie, who are you? Tell us about you.
So I'm Millie Milliken. I am a drinks journalist by trade, and I write for both consumer and trade drinks magazines, so the likes of Master of Malt, Class magazine for bartenders, Vinepair in the States, some stuff for cocktail lovers, Whisky Magazine, of course. I just filed a piece for their next issue just before we came on here. And I'm also the drinks community manager for a new platform from the Drinks Trust, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's a drinks industry charity. And the new community platform I'm managing at the moment, creating content, making sure that people can network properly on there, asking questions, and just creating a nice space for people in the industry to chat to each other and upskill and get back to work, really, after COVID.
Nice. Being a Drinks Trust member and a member of that platform, I've had a scout around it a couple of times, and there really is some really interesting characters on there, and you can get to know their bios and about them, and and interact with them as well. So it's not just like a who's who and sort of stuff. They can actually send messages and say, I see you've been through this, down this sort of career path. Could you tell me a little bit more about it? I'm thinking of it myself, and they're there to help you, which I think's fantastic, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's great. And it's people from all across the industry. So I think a lot of the time, bartenders might all mix with bartenders, sommeliers with sommeliers, people who work in the beer industry with each other. But because it's cross-sector, you can, we're here to learn from each other. And especially over the last sort of 12 months, people are doing things differently, and we need to all get back out there, really. So yeah, it's a really fun space, and like you say, there's so many people from different parts of the industry on there that I didn't even know existed. So yeah, definitely worth checking it out.
But there's also like professional people on there that if you're feeling in a bit of that rough spot, that you can reach out to and talk to as well, Millie, isn't there? Because the last year, as we all know by now, the last year and a bit it's not been an easy time for people, especially in hospitality, because the majority of people have found themselves out of work because, they come from small independents and that, so not really been able to go into the furlough scheme, or, there's misunderstanding about it. And again, there's been a lot of turmoil, especially coming back to opening back up in stages and things like that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually at the moment putting together a panel on what everyone seems to be calling the staffing crisis at the moment. And it's a bit of a funny one, because you'd think that there'd be lots of people out there looking for work, but operators are really struggling to find people to do the job. So I think it's going to be a really interesting couple of months. And yeah, like you say, on the community, we have a kind of opportunity section where people can just say, look, we're looking for X amount of staff. This is what we require. Or individuals can go on and say, look, I've been in the industry for however long. These are my skills. If anyone needs a bartender, a bar back, front of house, let me know. I'm here. And, it's just an easy place to network and show your skills, really, in quite a non-corporate environment as well, which I think is at the moment going to be quite important to get people back behind bars, definitely. Yeah,
you just mentioned a bar term there. Obviously, myself, I don't come from a bar background. I come from an engineering background. Quite unusual for like a brand ambassador and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? To come completely with something not totally related to it, especially from the bar back. But you mentioned a role called a bar back.
Oh, yeah.
What do they do?
Yeah, so bar back, they're kind of like, I'm going to use another term that you might not know now, like a sous chef in a kitchen. So where you'd have the bartender, the bar back would be there sort of on the back bar, passing the drinks, doing the garnishing, prepping the drinks and things like that. So they're kind of there to assist the bartender, and their role is really, really important for bars to keep pushing out drinks, really. So yeah, it's a good space if anyone's in there and they want to get any work or see what's out there, really.
Fantastic. So what got you into the journalism then, Millie, really?
Well, I think just before we came on here, I mentioned that I did a philosophy degree. And funnily enough, when you leave university with a philosophy degree, nobody really wants to hire you for a job. So I kind of...
Wasn't there like a Yellow Pages ad, a good few? You two might be a bit too young, but there was a Yellow Pages ad a good few years ago, and the grandma was on the phone saying, "Oh, how?" And it was a philosophy degree. She was putting a scroll on his cake and stuff like that, and talking for it. It was with Maureen Lipman. If anybody remembers.
Oh yes, I know Maureen Lipman. Yeah.
I don't know my age now. I don't know.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I did that and then came out of that and fell into hospitality. I was working at a tea room above the Coach and Horses pub on Greek Street, managing that for a while. And while I was doing that, I was basically writing for free for anyone who would have me, really. And then I kind of finally managed to land a job at the Good Food Guide, and I was literally getting the menus out of the post and filing them in a real life filing cabinet to order them rather than data input on a computer. So I was in charge of the filing cabinet, and then I got a job at somewhere called Square Meal, which is a restaurants and bars website and publication, and I started there as editorial assistant and worked my way up, and then I moved to Imbibe for a couple of years, and that's been about 10 years writing in the industry, coming up sort of end of this year, which seems to have gone incredibly quickly, but yeah, it's a fantastic job, really good fun. You meet some really fun people, and you get to drink a lot of delicious drinks, and some not so delicious.
Well, no, just I think I think just more suited for other occasions.
Yes, exactly. That's the diplomatic way of saying it.
To each their own, and somebody out there may well love them, and a good whiskey is a whiskey.
Exactly.
But then there are just some that are bad. But not many. But
not many.
There are some that there might be only a few that would appreciate, perhaps.
I must say, I was doing some cocktail experimentation the other evening. Just over lockdown, I've managed to amass a load of different syrups and liqueurs and bitters and just loads of stuff I would not normally have in the house, really, just playing about with cocktails and things, things like Amaro and things like. And I'm thinking, I think I saw it in one cocktail recipe once, and I liked the cocktail, so I thought, I'll get a bottle of that. I think I've made that cocktail particularly once, and it's just sat. I'm like, right. So I downloaded a few apps to my phone, and I'm thinking, right, okay, let's have a play about. It was Friday night. I thought, right, let's have a play about. And I think the first about 4 or 5 cocktails I made, like, no, that's all wrong. No.
They are magicians, bartenders. Yeah, I have so much stuff in my drinks cabinet at home, and I just sort of look at it and I just think I wouldn't know where to even start with what to do with that. And even if when you've tasted it, it's still really difficult. It just shows you the amount of work that goes into these ingredients and bartenders putting them together. It's like magic. The magicians.
We had a cocktail show, or we had a show last year called Mackmyra and Friends. And of a Friday, we'd have one of our brand ambassadors was a mixologist. He was very good at cocktails, and he'd create 2 new cocktails every week for this thing. So we had to keep, because we're there on the show sort of supporting and making it with him. Never half as good, and like you should have seen the state of some of the things I made. But I've now got this cabinet just full of ingredients and of different bottles and of bitters and of all sorts of different liqueurs that are just so, I just don't know where to begin now. Mick always comes out something fancy and fruity at the beginning, but I don't want to be too self-deprecating, but I think I'm just too boring to make cocktails.
Boring or lazy?
Boring and or lazy, I think, is probably more accurate. I think I'd accept that.
Rich is what we call it, like in Scotland or in Glasgow, is particularly like a wee half and half man. Do you know what I mean? So just a wee half of beer and a wee whiskey. That would be rich.
If I was going to make one, either that or the Japanese, I think, quite like a mizuwari. A 1/3, I think, whiskey, 2/3 water, or thereabouts. And tried that. I read about that. Dave Broom wrote about that in The Way of Whiskey. And
nice.
He said, some of the bars in Tokyo they make that concoction, they make it to that ratio, but in a big sort of plastic tub, put it in a fridge for 24 hours and bring it out, and you end up with all this extra texture and things. Mick loves talking about things, but mizuwari, and then I think it's just called quite plainly, a 24-hour mizuwari is the creative name that they come up with.
Like
but that was, so that I could make, because that was a piece of piss. That was very easy indeed. I might say, but mixed ones, and I don't have a never-ending mint plant on my windowsill either, as Mick does. At this stage, it's been so long. Is it like Trigger's broom from Only Fools and Horses, where you just
same. That's the good thing about nature; things grow. But I'll be honest, I went to cut today's sprig of mint, and I might have to leave it. It's a good job we're having a wee break, Rich. Quite frankly, because it needs some time to chill out and regenerate.
You decimated it.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit better. I'm going to be honest. It used to be it's like Rapunzel's hair, quite frankly, and now it's a bit more like a skinhead.
I can imagine it goes really well with the white dog, though, with the Vit.
Yeah.
Really
so I asked about white dog, about you Millie, having a bottle of white dog, because I understand that this is how you and Mick met, was through our new mate. How did that come about?
Yeah, I was writing a piece for Master of Malt on new make spirit, and I love new make spirit. I always like, if I'm trying a whiskey, to try the first iteration of it, so to speak, and you only really get to do that a lot of the time in a distillery. It's quite not rare to find a bottled new make, but not every single whiskey distillery will do it. And I just think they're fantastic. It's, the beginnings of what all the products are going to become. And I was sort of looking, and I asked around my network, what are the best, new make spirits? And you guys came up in conversation. So I stalked, for want of a better word, Mick, and came across him, and he, I got a bottle of the Fit Hund, and it was absolutely fantastic. And we had a chat, and actually the cocktail I made was inspired from the conversation we had, because I think you came up with a really good sort of twist on a martini that also involved whiskey as well, and I think lime, and I didn't have all the ingredients, so I sort of went a bit more simple, but that just sounded absolutely fantastic. And when you think of, new make spirit, you wouldn't necessarily think of doing it and swapping it in for a gin or a vodka or something, but it works amazingly. It's fantastic, especially your guys' one, because it's got those beautiful sort of apple and pear notes. It's it's delicious. And I kind of bang on about new make all the time, so anyone who knows me is like, oh, shut up, but I love it, and I think it's really underrated, especially as a cocktail ingredient. So if anyone at home hasn't ever tried a new make, I'm sure you probably have, go and try some, because it's a really nice experience. It's brilliant.
I can get behind that so much, but I think it's just Mick and I talk every so often about how we're both, as much as we like a sherried dram or a wine cask whiskey. I've been getting, and Mick too, into refill casks for some time. That's a way of finding out what that character, a closer representation of what that spirit character from that distillery will be like. However, you can strip it all the way back, as you keep, you're obviously doing often, and go to the new make, and that is that's really where you get the spirit character from. I mean, obviously it's not whiskey then, but it's still very much it's like the jumping off point for everything.
And when you think that, I've been talking to a few people, sort of doing a lot of whiskey interviews at the moment, and a lot of the distillers and blenders say, the new make is, for me, the most important part of the process sometimes, because if that's your base. If you don't get that right, that's the characteristic of the whiskey. And I just find that really interesting. And actually at the, where was it? It was the Great Scotland Yard Hotel, which I don't know whether that's reopened yet, but they have a whiskey bar called Shabin, and they have an amazing new make menu there. I've never seen a new make menu in a bar before I went there, and that was like 2 years ago. And they do flights of whiskey, but it's the same whiskey but through all of its processes, so you kind of see how it's like doing a side by side of the whole spectrum. And I just think it's really a really great thing to do. And like I said, it's the first time I've ever seen a new make spirit on a menu before, and that was 2 years ago or something like that. But I think it's just really underappreciated, and if I ever see a bottle, I always just pick it up, give it a try. And I've got a lovely little collection brewing at the moment, so including yours.
I think that's a good one for our audience this evening, guys. What are your experiences of new make? Have you seen a new make section on a drinks menu before? I'll hold my hand up. I've never seen, I've seen the whiskey section and stuff like that, but I've never ever seen a new make on a menu. I've never seen it for sale behind the bar. Like we said earlier, you very rarely see it in a shop or on the distillery shop itself. So to actually see it on a back bar and on a whiskey menu or on a drinks menu, full stop. Really, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. So Kim, that was the Old Scotland Yard. Was it Old Scotland Yard Hotel?
Yeah, it's the Great Scotland Yard Hotel, which is obviously in London, and the bar is called Shabin, and it's a specialist whiskey bar in there. It's fantastic. I would definitely say to head down and take a look. They're doing some really, really cool stuff with whiskey and new make in there at the moment.
Yeah, I've never seen any new make on a menu anyway. I wonder if maybe in the States you can find a moonshine section of some menus, because they're
probably
more, like well known, and I wouldn't say widely consumed, but there's a lot of history that comes with drinking moonshine, as opposed to no one ever's really tucked into new make, not by the bottle, really. In the UK.
I think a lot of the time people say, they do it on a distillery tour just to, if you're doing a tasting, just to highlight, what it tastes like. But when I was talking to a lot of the sort of whiskey brands and stuff, a lot of the times they maybe show it to bartenders, just again as sort of the same as they would do on a tour. But in terms of actually stocking it behind a bar, I think it can be quite expensive as well, which might be a bit prohibitive. But a lot of it isn't. If it's when you think about what the price of some sort of entry level whiskies would be, it's around the same mark as that, really. I think it's just the perception of it as being, it's not a whiskey, it's not been aged, so it can't be any good, when in fact it is. It's fantastic.
It's still been through a process at the end of the day, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's been time, effort, and ingredients gone into it, so it has to attract a price, really.
Think about the duty. I mean, it attracts duty as well. So there's
especially for us in the UK. Do you know what I mean? That tax thing always kills us, doesn't it? Really. But which is quite interesting. You mentioned moonshine now, right? Sorry, quite interesting. You mentioned moonshine. Has anybody seen? And let's go out to the crowd in that as well. Has anybody seen the program on Sky or Amazon Prime called Moonshiners?
No.
You've got to. I think right at the moment you can download from series 6 to 10. Right?
I'm on it. I've run out of everything now.
It's literally about people in the southern parts of America, right? Going out. It's like reality TV, but for whiskey people. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And it follows them out into the woods, and they're making their moonshine. They're building their stills and running from the cops and bootlegging and everything. Honestly, it's brilliant, right? It is. Some of it's a little bit stereotypical, and you think, "Oh, look at him in his dungarees and with his straw in his mouth," and they talk like you would expect them, and you think, that's maybe a little bit hammed up and stuff, but also at the same time, is it? On the twist from that, they actually do a MasterChef version. So they've got moonshiners, master distiller, where these moonshiners actually compete for a master distiller title.
Absolutely right. I'm on it. I am on it. This sounds incredible.
First, there's an outfit. I can't remember the name for the life of me now because I haven't thought about it in so long. But in 2018, well done, T. I'll definitely watch it. In 2018, when I first found Mackmyra, was a little whiskey festival called the Whiskey Affair that was in Reading. It pops up in a number of locations. But next to Shane, our boss, Mick, was the owner of the pub, shall we call him, maybe, if we're the landlord. Principal investor, maybe.
Yeah, principal investor, yeah, that'll do.
Next to him at the Mackmyra stand was a gentleman there who had gone over to America a few years before, got really into moonshine, and then there was a moonshine company, and he said, "Oh, let me come, let me sell your wares in the UK." So I hope he's still going. I hope there's something about that happening now. I'm Google.
On Moonshiners, there's a guy called Tim. And he actually came over to Teeling Distillery. So Teeling in Ireland invited him over to talk about his product because he's now what's called a legal moonshiner. So he makes moonshine, but in a legal distillery. So basically, he's just making new make spirit and punting it. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That's
so you learn about Tim and moonshiners and stuff like that as well. So T's binge watched it because me and my friend Neil, who we had on as a VIP patron, spoke about it on our podcast that we do, the Quake podcast. And so that T's a big follower of ours on that as well. So
amazing. I'm really glad I came on this show and we're now talking about moonshine. I think
honestly, well, I mean, at the end of the day, though, Vithund, that's where Vithund really gets its name from. We just have to say good evening to Shilton, a new dad. We said well done to him last week. So again, well done to Shilton and little Callum. Good evening to Paul Dempsey as well from the Spade Distillery. We've got some whiskey royalty mingling amongst us this evening. So good evening, gentlemen. So we better be on our bestest behaviours.
It's a very fancy pub.
Isn't it? Well, we only attract the best clientele. Do you know what I mean? Only the best clientele for us. But no, so Vithund means white dog. And obviously in the early days of bourbon makers and stuff, that's basically where moonshine come from. Yeah. So they used to call their new make spirit white dog. So obviously in Swedish that is Vithund.
Perfect. And you've got the little dog on the front as well.
And the wee pupper's on the front.
It's lovely.
The wee pupper's on the front as well. So with that in mind, talking about that sort of stuff. I think that brings us to the to roughly the halfway point of the second round. Millie, I know you've got something interesting lined up. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you're having for your second dram or your second drink, whatever it may be. Please let us know. Your comments and stuff are being read. Evening Carl, he's hard at work in the workshop. He's our normal back-end director. He's saying we've got some lovely chat, but missing your big guy. But Connor's not doing a bad job.
Apart from that one bit.
By the way, to Tim's comment earlier, Mick is the cocktail king as always. Yes, Tim, I appreciate that, Paul.
You couldn't help but read that one out, even though it didn't pop up. Did you been waiting to?
I've been waiting. I have been waiting. And Carl would have had that up by now as well. In all fairness,
he would have. Yeah,
I think Connor's enjoying the drink that we got him a little bit too much. But hey, if you can't celebrate finishing uni, when can you celebrate? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. What a legend.
Well, I mean, he was quick enough with his comment, though, wasn't he? You know what I mean? We agree, Con. We agree. We love you, brother. We love you. So, Millie, what are you having for your second drink, my friend?
So, I was scouring my shelves and I wanted to go super schmancy and really impressive. And then I thought, I'm just going to go with something that I really just want to drink right now, which is, it's amazing. It's Nixter, which is a Mexican whiskey liqueur made primarily from corn. So this came into the UK with Abasolo, which is a Mexican whiskey, which was launched, I think, end of last year. And this Nixter they go through a really historical process to make it very sort of indigenous to where the corn grows. And it's absolutely delicious. It basically tastes like really sweet with the corn on the cob, butter, bit of sugar on there. And it's just fantastic by itself or on ice. And it's absolutely fantastic. Great for this weather, good with a barbecue. It's just delicious. I'm not a big liqueur fan usually, especially not by itself, but this just it's very special. And the bottle looks like a corn on the cob, so you can't really go wrong with that in my book. Get your hands on some. It's delicious.
Nice. The whiskey. Oh, sorry. Maybe the whiskey component of that. What's the mash bill for it then? Is it 100% corn? I mean, because they've gone quite corn heavy on the marketing. So.
I think it is 100% corn. Yeah. So the Abasolo is the whiskey base, and that's 100% corn. And then they just turn it into liqueur for this particular release. But yeah, I think the actual whiskey came out middle to end of last year, and I think it's the first whiskey to ever come out of Mexico, which is really exciting. So yeah.
Because obviously Mexico is known really for its mezcal, isn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Mezcal and tequilas, etc.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's nice to see, a product like this coming out of Mexico. And yeah, I think they've done a fantastic job with it, and it's an absolutely delicious liquid as well. I definitely suggest getting your hands on some or trying a dram of Mexican whiskey.
I think I shall.
I'll look that up. I've got behind me here that I've got whiskey from 12 countries. Mexico's not one of them, so even just to add one to the collection for the sake of adding a Mexican whiskey would be good. So but to hear someone speak of it so highly, I think I will actually probably go out of my way to look out.
I'll send you a link.
So Rich, you having a second drink, sir?
Yeah, I'm just going for another Brooks Whiskey Deluxe, Mick, because I like it and it's I've been pouring it for other people for the last sort of couple of days, and haven't actually stopped to have too much of it myself yet. I did have a nose of it this morning with you at 9 o'clock with joined by Angela to learn, so now sitting down actually enjoying a dram of it. I've been pouring it for people today as well and not being able to because I've been driving. So
what were people's reactions to it? What were people saying?
Positive. You can. We did a little side by side with the original Brooks whiskey, and the difference is you can definitely tell the difference in its development and maturity. A lot more sort of to it, and a bit more refined, a bit more sort of. I think Angela was calling the flavors this morning a bit more sort of embedded and interwoven into one another. I think that's definitely the case with it. It's far more sort of complex and Mick doesn't say the word smooth too often, but very goes down easily. I might say very soft.
Very, very easily, very, very easily.
Mick, what have you got?
Sorry, 2 seconds. Wait for Lisa, who's late. Naughty Lisa.
Disgraceful.
The name of the corn liqueur, the whiskey liqueur.
Oh yeah. So it's called Nixta.
Nixta. That's right.
Nix. I'm doing a bad job of this. Nixta, and the whiskey that it is made from is called Abasolo. Abasolo whiskey and Nixta liqueur.
Okay. Well, just a second, Kim.
Yeah, is there a big difference between corn liqueur and corn whiskey? Yeah, there is a big difference, not necessarily with the flavour profile, but with the texture and also sort of the occasion that you would drink it with. The liqueur is far more, it's a lot sweeter, the texture is a lot heavier. There's probably a bit more spice. There's a bit of spice in it, but there's definitely more spice with the whiskey. So the liqueur is definitely something that you'd maybe have as a digestif perhaps, or mixed in a cocktail, but the whiskey is a lot lighter. So yeah, if you want something a bit sweeter, go for the liqueur. Something a bit more closer to what we know as whiskey, then I'd go for the corn whiskey. But they're both delicious. Corn on the cob, popcorn, yum. Can't go wrong.
So for my next drink, I'm going to take inspiration from your drink, Millie, with the Nixer, and with, I think it's with Kim as well. And she said she's going to have a Bjorksav. So I'm going to make a floral twist on a rustig spick, which is Swedish for a rusty nail. Anyone knows what a rusty nail is? 2 parts whiskey to 1 part whiskey liqueur. So I suppose really, does anybody know what is Spanish for rusty nail? Because
off the top of my head,
you can't just say it in an accent, Millie, either.
No. Rusty nail. No, I don't think it's going to go.
You get it anyway.
Italian as well, really. So I'm really sorry to Spanish and Italian people.
As you should be.
Oh, 100% Rich, without questionable doubt. I think most things I say, I probably should have just come with an automatic apology to them. I think that might be the next tattoo, actually. Yeah, just get that. I am actually sorry. If you take 2 parts of the Nixer and 1 part of the I forget what the Mexican whiskey name.
The Abasolo.
Yeah, the Abasolo. So to make whatever Spanish is for rusty nail. So if only you could tell me, that would be really, really good.
I'm going to give it a go.
So a few other people are on a second dram as well. Bully is from his Infinity bottle. Brilliant, Bully.
Lovely.
I think Tamara's questioning you about that already anyway. So, yeah. So Tamara wants to know what its current flavour and aroma is. So anybody that doesn't know, an Infinity barrel or an Infinity bottle is basically you take a cleaned out old whiskey bottle, or I've actually got, just above it, if you can just see there, I've actually got a 1 litre Kilner barrel with a tap on the front. To make my Infinity. So basically you take, nice one. You went for the
purpose. The whiskey barrel
one, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. What you do is you take an empty whiskey bottle or a bottle with a tiny little bit left in it, and then you add in drams of. You can do. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can do it flavor profile led. You can do it as I do it and just chuck anything in there that you've got left in the bottom. I keep mine generally to Scotch, but there has some poor John's found its way into there over the past couple of years. So it's not. I'm just blowing that apart now. I was contemplating doing a Mackmyra only Infinity barrel or Infinity bottle, Rich, with just all the leftover tasting samples that we've got and stuff, and see that comes over. Do you know what I mean? So basically, so you take an empty bottle or bottle with left in it, and you take 1 or 2 drams from the remainder of a bottle that you like a flavour profile of, and you put it in, and you wait some time. You add some more, keep notes of it, and you just keep going. If one day you don't like it, empty some out. If it's full, that is, drink some more. And then top up and try and steer the flavour profile. I don't try and steer the flavour profile too much.
Yeah.
I just, whatever happens. If I don't quite particularly like it, I'll chuck some smoky stuff in there and make it all better.
I've been doing it pretty much the same way as you, Mick, to be fair. And whenever I find it and it hits a sweet spot, I'll catalogue it and I'll decant 50 ml into a little separate bottle and put the date on it. So, and the plan, I've got 5 or 6 of them now. The plan is that, at some point in the future, I'll go back through, maybe a decade or 5 years or whatever it might be of the Infinity Bottles journey, and have, a couple mates and just do a little bit each of, round out of it. But I'd recommend
That's
that
awesome.
just if it's hit a good spot, because it spends a lot of time in between the good spots. So, when a good spot does come around, I like to, make notes of it. Basically.
Document it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Tamara does something that's quite popular amongst the infinity bottle keepers. I don't know if that's the proper collective term for him. I don't know. Millie, you're the writer. What would you call a collection of infinity bottle people?
Infinitex.
Oh, I like that.
Infinitex.
That's good. I was going to say infinity bottlers, rather sort of route one and a bit sort of
or Infinitex Texies or something. Yeah,
that's got new Facebook group writ all over it, hasn't it? People just come in to show off your infinity bottle and stuff like that. Yeah, your current recipe up to date. My infinity bottle does have my infinity barrel does have its own Facebook page actually, which I've neglected as of late. It's not been updated in a week. I need to address that now. I've mentioned it. So, Emily, I take it you don't have an infinity barrel, or an infinity
I don't.
barrel.
No, I don't. This is really cool to hear all these people who do. This is brilliant.
Yeah. So
you just finish your whiskies, yeah.
Sorry, go on, Rich.
I was just going to say, Millie, it sounds like you finish your whiskies rather than play around with them.
A lot of it's a lot of sampling, a lot of tasting for those really precise tasting notes. So very rarely do I manage to keep a bottle of whiskey for a long time, unfortunately. But I'll give it a go.
Well, Kim's pretty much said what a lot of people say, that could be really, really nice or really absolutely hideous. Yeah, and you have to just keep sampling every now and again, because obviously the more time it spends marrying together and that as well. So you could just put, say, 20 whiskies together, try it on day 3 and then go, oh, that's a bit rough. And then try it on day 43 and it's going to taste fairly different, because it's had that more time to get to know each other in the bottle or in the barrel sort of thing, really.
I do the same thing.
Always evolving.
I'll leave mine for a week or so at least to sort of marry together before I sort of go and sample it again. But just thinking about the infinities, making me think about infinity and beyond. That's making me think about the future. Millie, I know that what a segue, if I do say so myself.
That's brilliant.
You see yourself up into the treat there, my son. I like it. I was thinking, right, how am I going to cover the next subject? Like, Richard, spot on, sir.
So Millie, so you've been writing quite a bit about the future of whiskey. Let's say new whiskies, new distilleries coming out, new this, that, the other. Why is that something that you find interesting? What makes you want to write about that?
Well, first port of call is I've just written Infinity Bottles down as a potential article. So I'll come away from this. I might do a bit more digging, because I think it would be really fun to see what people come up with, and the mistakes and the successes as well. But yeah, I write a lot about whiskey, and predominantly I'm writing a lot more about new whiskies, or what historical whiskey companies are doing to kind of keep up with market trends, really, and try and get, and younger people are now spending more money on what they drink. There's that premiumization. They like the brand to reflect their own sort of ethos and their values. And I think when we talk about contemporary whiskies, I think a lot of people think new whiskey companies or new whiskey brands, but that isn't always the way. Some of the most traditional whiskey distillers are what we would consider contemporary in what they do. They're completely craft, they're all done on site. They look after their environment. So yeah, I've just been talking to a lot of people about it, and there's so much chat at the moment going around about age statements in particular, and a lot of people talking now about how younger whiskies are definitely getting a bit more kudos. And I just think it's really interesting that this industry, which is so old and has usually had that image of someone sitting and drinking it by an open fire with a cigar or a pipe in their slippers, is changing massively.
Don't start telling people and giving away and ruining my actual ideal whiskey scenario.
Of course, that's fantastic, but it's nice to see people like Milroy's are doing whiskey highballs on tap now, so they have taps behind the bar of whiskey sodas, and I just think it's really nice to see how the category is evolving, and it's great for everyone involved in the category. And I think I would consider you guys 100% a contemporary whiskey brand. I think it's really exciting. What do you guys see in terms of the market and like what you guys are doing?
Well, in terms of us specific, I mean, if I could start and just speak, in a broad sense of new distilleries coming online and whiskies being ready, and to each their own, of course. But I think it's quite easy to argue that these whiskies that are coming out now, or many of them, 3.5 years old, whatever they are, can be delicious, bloody tasty. And I tried some of White Peak's 2-year-old, not quite whiskey yet. Mick just nipped out the back to get some more pork scratchings in to put behind the bar. So I tried some of their a friend of mine's part of their members club, their temperance club, and tried some of their 2-year-old spirit drink stage, and that was fantastic. And I think I was in a conversation where Dave Worthington was involved, talking about how whiskey being 3 years in a cask, is it really even necessary in some cases? You look at American whiskey, for example, but and there's laws and regulation, or people trying to perhaps get some rules to follow, some guides to follow in English whiskey now. And there's an argument being made about should we give up the 3-year thing and say 2? But that's a very difficult decision to make, because as soon as you do that, and I'll say this, with love for them, the Scotch whiskey industry or folk will immediately start saying, well, that whiskey's only 2 years old, it can't be any good. And then you've been out-marketed. So even though you've got a product that is very good, I think we might move one more time. So make sure you're sitting down in case he does. But yeah, so I mean that's my sort of answer is it's exciting to see, and some of the whiskey coming out 3 years is brilliant. To tie things back a little bit with the new make that we had earlier, we're talking about new make in general. You can engineer your system and design your system as you're making your spirit to be something that will work and mature quickly. Something that's not quite as robust as the spirit you're creating, that you're going to be laying down for 10 or 12 years. You can set yourself to actually produce something that comes out, the perfect version of what it is at that age.
Yeah, there's someone, and I've just interviewed someone that hasn't been announced what they're doing yet, but it will be announced in Whisky Magazine, so I can't say who they are, but they're doing exactly that. They have tweaked the process to make sure that what they have will age as if it had aged for, it's fantastic what innovation is going on at the moment.
Okay, Rich, were you more on about actually just in the production process as opposed to the maturation process?
I was talking about the making of the spirit there. Yeah. So the late Dr. Jim Swan, Shilton, age is just a number. We all know it. The late Dr. Jim Swan, how many distilleries he went round as a consultant for, and consultant distiller, and just getting them all set up. I don't know the number, but it's a lot of the ones that we are now big names. And one of he went round, at least I don't want to say for the most part, but to my understanding, for the most part, telling people how to make spirit that would work well at a young age and hadn't been in the cask for too long. So it's been by design. But Mick, when you say about the cask maturing side, is there something that you've got sort of on that at any point?
No, because there's obviously we've seen it before where they've tried to rush the maturation process, and whether that be electrifying things into the liquid with the electrified. So they actually again back to the moonshiners. Right, so he had a batch.
I'm so glad this is my legacy of this episode.
Right?
Look how happy he is. Yeah.
This is just literally tied into this. This is brilliant, right? Everything goes back to moonshine. But no, so what he teamed up with some engineers, right? And what they did was they actually electrified, put electrodes in some different types of wood, right? In wood staves, basically. And steep them in the liquid, because what he wanted to do was fast forward the maturation process, because he had a load of moonshine, that was due for a deal to go to Poland or something, and they backed out. So we had these hundred thousands of litres of moonshine, and he wanted to go, well, I can't shift it. What am I going to do? So he wanted to make it into whiskey. Yeah, air quotes. And wanted to make it into whiskey. So they come up with this. He teamed up with some engineers. They come up with this idea. Was basically they put it back into like a marrying vat, and they basically electroded up some wood, different types of wood, and left it in overnight. They come back in, and it imparted all these flavors and stuff. And we've seen this over the past few years and stuff as well, with people go for like steeping in wood chips and all that sort of stuff, in centrifuging.
What about music? People who play music to their whiskey.
Yeah, that's another.
It's a funny one. Who knows?
I love science, and I'm happy to talk a bit of science, but I have no idea how that's going to affect it. I'm going to be honest.
What would help them? What songs would help a whiskey mature more quickly?
Some proper good death metal, which is my kind of vibe.
I think that will make you grow up pretty quickly. I'm sure we just mentioned blind tasting. So I wanted to say a moment ago about. Have you guys ever heard of Abomination? I think is their name, the sort of brand name. Yeah. So that is I can't remember what their process is, but as Mick said, it's one of these like supercharged. So it's not whiskey, I think it's spirit drink again or whatever it is. But a good friend of mine actually popped one of those into a blind tasting that we were doing that he sort of sorted for a few of us, and got to it and tried it. And I quite liked it. I think, we had 5 or 6 that night, and I think it might have even been like 3rd or 4th. It was, it was up there. It was competing. It was contending with the others, and it was all right. And I think that I have no issue with this this experimental arm of things and trying new things at all. There's room for it. I think so long as people are transparent about it and don't try even remotely try and pass it off as something it isn't, then if you're making something that's good and people enjoy drinking it, but you're not masquerading as something else, and you're saying, look, we've done this differently. It's meant to be like something else, but it is not that thing. Then I think that's a great product. Why not?
Do you know what annoys journalists more than anything? When people tell you something that it isn't, and you have to do the research to work out whether it actually is the thing they're telling you it is.
Heaven forbid a journalist would have to do something.
I know.
I mean,
come on, make my life easy. But when people send a release and they say, "Oh, this is this," and you're like, "Those numbers aren't adding up," you go, "Well, that isn't that, is it?" So yeah, transparency for me in the drinks industry is always key. As long as I know what it is and you're upfront about it, if it tastes good, it's good. Yeah. It's good to me.
Yeah. There's room for everyone. Let's all get along, and just as long as we're honest.
As long as you're open and honest about what you're doing, then cool. No reason you can't fit in. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I had that Abomination on a tasting at the Pot Still in Glasgow, and it was a whiskey tasting that wasn't a whiskey tasting. Where we had different things that were like whiskey but weren't quite whiskey. So we had Bully, met a few whiskey stops. We caught out tastings. Yes, absolutely.
All the time.
So
there's nothing funnier than it.
There's nothing more satisfying.
No, we had like a 49-year-old Ben Nevis, and you got a 49-year-old Ben Nevis, but it had been lost in the warehouse basically. When they finally unearthed it and got around to it, it was like 29.9%. So because it was below the 40%, it couldn't be sold as a whiskey.
Yeah,
it's like 49-year-old liquid had to go for essentially buttons.
Oh,
and then there was that Floki. We had that Floki whiskey that was air dried with sheep dung. The Abomination was on it. And things like that.
The previous one should be called Abomination, if you ask me. But that's
there's fans of it. Believe it or not, there's fans of it. I'm not one of them. I'm not saying it's a bad whiskey. I'm just maybe not my cup of tea, shall we say? But speaking of cups of teas and drams we like and everything, I think that should round this nicely into last orders, ladies and gentlemen. You can't stay here and all that sort of useless crap the landlords normally chuck at you. And as we all know, the last orders bell normally sets us up really for the whiskey scenario. So Millie, you are a VIP guest this week. So the whiskey scenario is down to you, my friend, and it is: where are you? What's in your glass? And who are you with? brackets, if anybody.
Okay, so again, I was thinking, I need to come up with a kind of, death row whiskey. What do I need to tick off the bucket list? And I thought, I haven't travelled for ages, and one of the last trips I ever did was to the Kiro distillery in Finland. And it was before they released their malt rye whiskey. So I actually was only drinking their new make, but for me, that was fantastic. And I thought, you know what, I'd love to just be sat in Finland drinking their whiskey. So for me, I would be in a hot tub in Finland at the distillery, which is what we did then. Don't remember most of the evening, but I'm pretty sure it was good. Drinking their malt rye whiskey, which is really, really good. Love it. They use kind of like Scottish style pot stills, but it's made from 100% malted, finished whole grain. You can really taste the malt in there. It's absolutely fantastic. And then it's aged in new white American oak as well. So I'd be in a hot tub drinking Kiro malt rye whiskey, preferably alone, because I quite like that scenario. But if I had to,
no, you don't have to.
Okay, just me then. Me in a forest, alone in a hot tub, drinking whiskey.
Too many guests getting caught up with having to think of somebody. That's why I was putting brackets, if anybody. Because, one of our first guests asked me and Rich what ours was, and we went through it, and mine was literally what you said earlier. You know what I mean? Cottage, middle of nowhere, log fire, big cigar on the go, probably a nice big electric 18. There you go. Rich, that's the first time we mentioned it. This which is a new high, which is a new low high, which is a new record for us. So just to fill you in, electric is probably either the top or the second most talked about whiskey on our show.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. If not the most named, because we don't often say Mackmyra over and over again. We say we do this, we do that. No. So I think the one that gets the most names out there will probably be electric. To be fair, I mean, I'll just say the Kiro. How would
Kiro, yeah.
One of it's probably both incorrect, I would say, because Mackmyra or Mackmyra is closer to Mackmyra, so even we don't get those right. I did my Wine and Spirit Education Trust level 2 course in 2019, and on my course was, I think, Micky, the founder.
I love him.
He was sat at a table behind me. I wasn't working in whiskey at all at the time. I was doing that course so I could try and get myself, a job in the industry. And he was an incredibly nice bloke. And I think there was a lady called Alex, maybe, that was just from the account team, an accountant for them that was there as well. And he brought on the second day, just before lunch, he got out a bottle of, still not out in the UK at the time, their dairy cream, like a coffee.
It is one of the best things I've ever drunk in my entire life. It is insane. Yeah, they're selling it at the Whiskey Exchange. Get a bottle of it. It's incredible.
So I'm on bottle number 2 now. Nice. So because as soon as it came out, I think it was out the day it came out, I bought it. And then went through it and bought another one. It made with proper milk or something like this. They found a way of actually managing to be able to store it rather than terrible milk or whatever it is. It is the good quality ingredients going into it. And I'm not much of a I know you had a lovely sounding liqueur earlier. I would definitely try sort of whiskey liqueurs for fun, but coffee liqueurs and things, I don't really go out of my way to try them. But it was there, it was free, it was exciting because it was not out in the UK. Tried it and it was lovely, and then I put a little bit of it in my coffee just after lunch as well, and that was just delicious.
So we had that at the distillery. We had a little snack time in the afternoon. Tried that, and again I was like, really, a bit of sort of creamy coffee at lunch, okay? And I was like, you need to bring this to the UK. I could drink this by the gallon. And also, when we were in that hot tub, we were also in a sauna, and Micky and his cohorts were hitting us with birch leaves, and they said it was doing something to us that was fine. Yeah, they were like, this is like reinvigorating you, and it was sort of like with our whiskey, like, okay, but it was a magical experience. If anyone gets to visit those guys, they are fab.
They've got lots of pictures of them. Sorry, mate, but I'll just say one last thing about them. They've got lots of pictures of them running naked through fields and things.
That's the vibe.
In the About Us site, I'm sure they have in the About Us site. They have their name and then that person running through a field,
Yeah.
a barn field naked, and
they're really fun.
I think that's the fun bunch, I think, for sure.
Yeah, they're really lovely.
Nice one. Right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said earlier, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That's us locking up the pub for a bit of a revamp and a makeover. So we will keep you informed on our social media of our imminent return or reopening. But this is not the end, obviously, for our shows. We will be back next Wednesday. Rich will lead us through our new take on a show. We've not done really one of these properly before, so that should be quite interesting. So tune in next Wednesday for the launch of the Brooks Whisky Deluxe, which is like Brooks Whisky, but for more grown-up people. And at that place that we're not allowed to talk about at the moment, so we didn't mention the Spirit Works in Lichfield.
Why couldn't you just find like a big smiley face emoji to stick over the top of it for the second one? You've had an hour. You've been sat there.
Yeah. So next Wednesday, join Rich and Angela and a few other guests that will be making their way onto the show next week for our official launch of Brooks Whisky Deluxe. And again, Millie, thank you so much for being a guest. You've been an absolute blast. Again, most of our guests, in fact, all of our guests, we could have done another hour of this easy peasy. So nice and easy to talk to you, pal. So really thanks for that. So do you have any last words for our viewers, for our patrons?
No, just to say, I think it's been a fantastic evening, and actually doing this and preparing for this show has kind of made me really realise how amazing the whiskey industry is and what is out there at the moment. Having to choose 2 drinks was like Sophie's choice. So we're very lucky in the UK to have access to all these fantastic products, and obviously the guys at Mackmyra as well. And I can't wait to try your new deluxe as well. Cannot wait, and to see where you're launching it as well. It's going to be such a surprise.
We'll get a sample over to you. It's going to be such a surprise.
Oh, fantastic.
I'll just say one thing, if I may, before we part. I think Millie Milliken, you've got the best saying name, the best name that I've ever been able to sort of say ever. I hope 2 things. I hope you hear that often, but I hope you don't hear it too often.
I do, and to be honest, I think that's the only reason that I've got this far in my career, to be completely honest with you. Memorable name, done.
It's like music. Like Millie Milliken. It's wonderful.
I was going to ask what your Marvel name is, because obviously your man Stan Lee named all of his characters, and they were all what's the word I'm looking for? Where it starts with a C there.
Yeah,
I was thinking about it the other day, and I actually had the word for it. Like Peter Parker. You know what I mean? I've got that. So Millie Milliken. So who would you then come on to be? You put your mask on. Who would you be?
Oh God, what a question! What do you think, Millie Milliken?
that was beautifully done, by the way. Send it.
I don't know, but I'll tell you what. We might pick that up on our first episode of the Mackmyra Inn back. So it's time for some people to think and for us to get our thinking caps on, because that question comes on the spot. I can't answer it. So it's
I'm going to be creative. God, is that bloody new make martini?
Millie returned it to Mick. Mick deflected rather clumsily, but well enough.
Well, massively clumsily, mate.
We're like a load of politicians, aren't we? Brilliant.
Pretty much.
Oh, I'm going to miss this, Mick. Millie, you've been such a great final patron, VIP patron for us to have, and all of the patrons. I know Mick will probably want to say the same thing to everyone as well, but all the patrons who have joined us and been with us regularly or just in and out here or there since we started doing this back in October, which is, about 8 months ago. Quick maths. We've been doing this a long time, so thank you for hanging around with us, and we are looking forward to coming back for season 2 after the summer. Yeah.
I like it. Marvellous Millie Milliken. Doesn't quite have the same link to it as Spider-Man, but yeah, sure, Carl, whatever. Millie, the whiskey superhero. Yeah, cool.
I'll go with that.
Spirits girl.
You can get malt. You can get malt in there somewhere. Millie Milliken. You know, you like New Milliken. That's a malty thing. There's something there. Anyway, that's
We'll work on it. I think we'll work on it.
Needs work, finessing.
So,
Yeah. Great.
So, ladies and gentlemen, so patrons at home, thank you so much for joining us for our fun episode of Mackmyra Inn 1.0. Be sure to look out for 2.0 launch coming hopefully maybe towards the end of August. Festival season is upon us, so please get out to as many whiskey festivals. Support the trade as it's re-emerging from its cocoon of lockdown, but obviously enjoy responsibly. Don't be that guy that has to be putting a taxi home early, and just enjoy. So, and for one last time on the Mackmyra Inn for Series 1.0, skål!
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 Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Millie.